In the make HTTP request method, we should only perform the HTTP request if the URL is not null, as it doesn't make sense to make a connection to an invalid URL. So at the beginning of the method, let's check if the URL is null. If it is, then we exit the method early by returning a JSON response that simply contains an empty string. Okay, so now let's move on to the core task in this quiz, which is to check the response code. After the connection has been established, you want to check the response code by calling urlconnection.getResponseCode. If you check the documentation, you'll know that it returns an integer. So in this test condition for the if statement, we check if the response code is equal to 200. If so, we then proceed to read from the input stream and extract the JSON response. Otherwise, if we have an error response code, in other words, not 200, we do nothing. And we're going to go down here and return the JSON response that was initialized earlier to an empty string. Which brings us to an important point. If the return value of the make HTTP request method can be an empty string, then we need to make sure that the method that takes the JSON response as input is handling that empty string case. So let's look at the extract feature from JSON method. Before we proceed with extracting information from the JSON response, we should check if the input parameter is either the empty string or null by calling textutils.isEmpty and passing in the string. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump to the declaration of this isEmpty function to see what it does. I do it by doing a shortcut of the command click. You notice here that in fact the isEmpty method within the textutils class is checking for an empty string or if the string is null. Okay, so back to our code. Now if the string is empty, then this expression will be true and will return early from the method. Now we return null because there is no valid event object from the JSON response. Notice how this extract feature from JSON method returns an event data type. We'll explain the full execution path of the Soonami async task later in the next lesson, but if there is a null earthquake, then we won't update the UI. The key is that it's okay to return null for a method, as long as the null case will be handled gracefully. Now you know how to check the HTTP status code and adjust the behavior of the app depending on whether you receive a successful or unsuccessful response code.